affected a week ago is in stable condition, has been ever since, and the crew, in fact, reported earlier today that they're all feeling very well and are ready to begin the trip back to Earth, which will span about 10.5 hours to a splashdown off the coast of California and a completion to this mission. That will set the stage for the International Space Station to be occupied by just 3 crew members for a 4-week period, not unprecedented. The commander of the station, Sergei Sverchkov of Roscosmos, his Russian colleague Sergei Mikheyev, and NASA's Chris Williams will carry the load for about a month until the arrival of the Crew 12 crew that is scheduled to launch in February to begin their own 6-month mission aboard the International Outpost and initially re-up the station population from 3 crew members to 7 crew members. Crew 12 consisting of the commander, Jessica Meir of NASA, along with NASA's Jack Hathaway, who will be the Crew 12 pilot, along with Sophie Adano of the European Space Agency, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrei Fedyaev. This view from Hawthorne, California, and the SpaceX Mission Control Center, working in tandem with the flight control team here in Houston. It is the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers on console today here in Houston who are following along with the pre-undocking preparations. Once again, the crew is soon to complete its suit up into their SpaceX launch and entry suits before floating through the hatchway on the zenith port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station, and behind them they'll close the hatch to Dragon Endeavour and begin final preparations for the undocking. A specific undocking time will be finalized once we actually close the hatch to Endeavour a short time from now. Once again, we're running a few minutes behind schedule, but we do expect to be able to undock well within the 1-hour window that's available for Dragon's departure today. And again, the burn plan for all of the departure burns and the rendezvous profile for the phasing to bring Endeavour home for a splashdown off the coast of California will be refined and amended to give us the proper splashdown time that has been set of 2:41 a.m. Central Time, 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time, early Thursday morning. Endeavour is in good shape. All of its systems are ready to support the undocking from the zenith or space-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station. Once the undocking command is issued, several activities will be undertaken, the first of which is the retraction of the umbilical, basically a power and data cable that Dragon draws power from the International Space Station during its docked time frame aboard the complex. Then 2 sets of hooks, 6 hooks per gang, will begin to open up. Set 1 first, followed in short order by hook set 2. All 12 hooks will open up, and then the physical separation will be broken between Endeavour and the zenith or space-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station, to which it has been linked for the past 165 days. There will be a series of undocking burns, first 1.5 seconds in duration, then 5 seconds in duration, and then what is called departure burn 0, a 16-second burn. This creates an opening rate between Endeavour and the International Space Station, ultimately enabling it to exit what is called the keep-out sphere, the first of 2 cylindrical boundaries, if you will, in the neighborhood of the International Space Station, followed in short order by the exit of what is called the approach ellipsoid, which I refer to as the neighborhood of the International Space Station. At that point, joint operations will come to a close, and the flight control team here in Houston will hand over exclusive control of Endeavour's flight back to Earth to the SpaceX flight control team in Hawthorne, California.
And catching you up, we're working procedure 2.103, so 2.6.
We copy. Thank you.
Here in Mission Control in Houston, in the bow tie, that is Flight Director Ronak Dave. He is the lead flight director associated with the Crew 11 mission. At the top of your screen is spacecraft communicator Matt Dunne, D-U-N-N-E, for those who will be spelling that out for print purposes. Matt Dunne will be the communicator talking to the Crew 11 crew through undocking and through its exit from the approach ellipsoid that will be coming up a bit later this afternoon. Inside Dragon, some of the crew members already beginning to strap into their seats. We do expect to have views inside Dragon here shortly. But again, the crew still in the process of completing the stowage of a few cargo items to be brought back to Earth aboard Dragon. Over the past week, the NASA team, the SpaceX team, the international partners have all worked in close concert with one another to facilitate this earlier than planned departure of Crew 11 from the International Space Station. That earlier departure done out of an abundance of caution following the issue that occurred 1 week ago, in which teams monitored a medical concern with one of the crew members living and working aboard the international outpost. That crew member was and continues to be in stable condition. And again, I will reiterate that earlier today, the crew reported that it was feeling great and ready to come home for a splashdown in the early morning hours on Thursday off the coast of California. This is Mission Control Houston. We do expect to receive interior views in the Dragon Endeavour here momentarily. You're looking at a view of NASA's Chris Williams aboard the International Space Station.
Checking. Hey, and Chris, you can temp stow those in node 2 right now. At the end of the day, we'll put them in the docking mechanism accessories kit.
And while spacecraft communicator Matt Dunn talks to Chris Williams inside the International Space Station, our first view inside Dragon,
Copy all, thank you.
a good view of NASA's Mike Fink. To his left is the Dragon commander, Zena Cardman of NASA. Another view from another camera showing Cardman in the foreground. The other crew members who are all suited up now are Kimiya Yui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency and Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos. They are working through pre-departure preparations, running through several checklists that will culminate with the closing of the hatch that will enable us to get a more refined time frame for the actual undocking of Endeavour. Keep in mind that the undocking begins with an undocking command that first retracts the umbilical that attaches Endeavour to International Space Station power and data capability. That follows with the opening of 2 sets of hooks, 6 hooks per set.
Procedure 2.103, step 2.9. Dragon cabin configuration for departure complete.
All right, Zena, SpaceX copies. Dragon cabin configuration for departure is complete. 2.9.
One of the items the crew completed was the swapping out of a lithium hydroxide canister that will enable the scrubbing of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere within Endeavour during its free flight back to Earth, and a splashdown in the wee hours on Thursday morning off the coast of California. Here in Mission Control, the reports are the crew is running just a few minutes behind schedule with their pre-departure preparations. You can see there in the on the right side of your screen, Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov, and in the center of your screen, NASA's Mike Fink, who is wrapping up his 4th flight into space today.
Push-to-talk destination is set to station.
We'll be standing by for the actual closing of the hatch to Dragon, and we'll mark that time for you, and we'll be able to provide a more refined time for undocking a short time from now. We will indicate, however, that we will, per our programming plan, go back on the air at 3:45 p.m. Central Time, 4:45 p.m. Eastern Time with our undocking coverage, regardless of any adjustment to that undocking time. This is Mission Control Houston, once again looking at views inside the Dragon Endeavour, which is currently mated to the space-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station. In the foreground is Endeavour Commander Zena Cardman. To her right, NASA's Mike Fink.
That's LIO cartridge 2. And at this time, you are go to complete the LIO configuration, IMV teardown and hatch closure per the procedure 2.103. When you're complete, you can execute instructions on hatch closed event details, and then finish chute dawning per 4.010.
Okay, copy. We will be swapping the LIO to cartridge 2. We are go for that configuration as well as IMV teardown and hatch closure per procedure 2.103. And then we will close out 4.010, completing those actions.
And Zena Cardman acknowledging that call from the CORE. That's the acronym for the Crew Operations Resource Engineer, basically the SpaceX communicator in Hawthorne, California, with instructions on several procedures that will precede the actual closing of the hatch to Endeavour that will set the stage for our undocking sometime in the neighborhood right after 4:05 p.m. Central Time, 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time, within a 55-minute time frame after that. As the flight control team here works to recompute our exact undocking time, we would offer to you that the burn plan by SpaceX Ballistics and the flight control team in Hawthorne will be adjusted so that we wind up with the same splashdown time, give or take. In the wee hours of Thursday morning, the current splashdown time scheduled at 2:41 a.m. Central Time, 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time. Once Dragon Endeavour departs the station, there will be a series of firings of the Draco thrusters to create an opening rate between Endeavour and the International Space Station. It will move to a safe distance away from the complex for the deorbit burn that is scheduled at 1:51 a.m. Central Time, 2:51 a.m. Eastern Time Thursday morning. That will be a 13-minute, 15-second retrograde burn, basically a braking maneuver, to slow Endeavour down by about 87.5 meters per second, allowing it to begin the entry back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Entry back, we're continuing to Dragon hatch closure at 3.6 alpha.
All right, SpaceX copies. We're with you at 3.6 alpha.
And we're complete 3.6 alpha, 3.7. We'll wait for ISS side 3.6 Bravo. We will be ready when you are for closing the Dragon hatch.
All right, we copy that. Xena, waiting on 3.6 Bravo.
Decimal 6 Bravo is now complete. So we are closing the Dragon hatch for the decal.
SpaceX copies.
We are nearing the point of hatch closure on the Dragon Endeavour. Just a few more steps required by the crew. They're all suited up inside the vehicle, ready to begin about a 10.5-hour journey following undocking to a splashdown at 2:41 a.m. Central Time, 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time off the coast of California on Thursday morning.
SpaceX Dragon hatch is closed with the hatch indicator on the red.
SpaceX copies, hatch closed, and the indicator is verified.
And Xena Cardman confirming that Dragon's hatch is closed at 2:29 p.m. Central Time, 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time. So the first step on the road home for the Crew 11 crew now complete as we stand by for other pre-departure preparations to be undertaken prior to the undocking of Endeavour from the space-facing port of the Harmony module. Again, hatch closure for Endeavour marked at 2:29 p.m. Central, 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time.
SpaceX Dragon big boost PPRB ISO valve in location 1 is verified open. Dragon interior is secure, waiting for your go for procedures.
SpaceX copies all Xena and report for PPRV. Good news, your go to step into procedures per the event details. We'll look for completing 4.010 for suit donning and report when complete.
So section 4 of 4.010 will complete.
Houston, station on 2. We're complete with our sides of step 3. Do you need those photos downlink now, or should we just proceed with step 4?
Checking. And Chris, we'll take the photos when we get them whenever, so we're ready for step 4. No rush.
NASA's Chris Williams reporting closeout photos prior to Dragon's upcoming departure. We're in the process of completing the refinement of an undocking time, but we only expect it to be just a few minutes behind the original plan. In this view inside Dragon Endeavour, in the foreground is Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov wrapping up his first flight into space. Across the spectrum of this view is the pilot of Endeavour, Mike Fink of NASA. To his left, Zena Cardman, the commander of the vehicle. And just out of the field of view is Kimiya Yui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency.
Jeff.
Station and Dragon, this is Houston on the big loop for new undock time. We caught up on some of our time. New undock is 22:15. That is 2215. How copy?
Okay, 2215 for our new updated undock time.
That's good readback.
And Houston's spacecraft communicator, Matt Dunn, reporting to Endeavour Commander Zena Cardman that our new updated undocking time, the undocking command itself that triggers the umbilical retraction and the opening of the hooks is going to be at 4:15 p.m. Central Time, 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time, but the actual physical separation that we mark undocking to will be 5 minutes after that. So we expect physical separation of Endeavour from the station at 4:20 p.m. Central Time, 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time.
Ready to copy.
I can report that the control of cabin air temperature via 4.080 is now allowed until pre-chill. Note that the hex is currently configured for maximum cooling.
Copy, thanks. We've got 4.080 as an option for temperature adjustment.
This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, the view inside the Dragon Endeavour as the International Space Station flies smoothly on 260 statute miles above the Earth. The station is currently tracking from northwest to southeast across the west coast of Australia in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. In the foreground is Endeavour Commander Zena Cardman. To her right, pilot Mike Fink. The two NASA astronauts joined by Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov and Kimiya Yui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. The four crew members soon to begin the journey from the station back to Earth, about a 10.5-hour journey that will result in a splashdown off the coast of California in the early morning hours on Thursday. Splashdown planned for 2:41 a.m. Central Time, 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time.
103, moving on to 4.7 now.
Copy. Moving on to step 4.7. We're with you.
The Crew 11 crew departing a few weeks ahead of schedule to complete a mission of 167 days in duration, 165 days of which will have been aboard the station, 2,672 orbits of the Earth in a mission that will have spanned 70.8 million statute miles. Cardman and Platonov, wrapping up their first flights respectively, will have logged 167 days in space.
4.011, but hold in section 1.
Activating 4.011, but holding in section 1.
The core, or the crew operations resource engineer at SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne, California, now working through their timelines. The next step will be leak checks for the four crew members on their launch and entry suits. Cardman and Platonov will have logged 167 days in space at the completion of their first flight. Mike Fink, with this mission, wrapping up his fourth flight into space, and a total of 549 days in space, good for fourth among all NASA astronauts and 20th on the all-time list for aggregate days in space. Kimiya Yui, in the completion of his second flight into space, will have totaled 309 days off the planet.
Hey, Zena, you are go to complete section 1 suit leak check preparations. We are still performing some final reconfigurations on the ground before we complete section 2, but you are go for section 1.
We go for section 1 only. We'll hold before section 2.
Throughout the course of the day today, all of the departure preparations have gone smoothly. Again, the crew reported earlier today that it was feeling in great shape, the Crew 11 crew, ready to come home to wrap up their mission, albeit a few weeks ahead of schedule. They completed the final stowage of cargo aboard Endeavour, and just a few minutes ago, at 2:29 p.m. Central Time, 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time, closed the hatch to Endeavour, leaving behind on the International Space Station the newly minted station commander Sergei Kud-Sverchkov of Roscosmos, along with his Roscosmos colleague Sergei Mikheyev and NASA's Chris Williams, who will be a three-man crew for the next 4 weeks until the arrival next month of the Crew 12 crew.
SpaceX Dragon Big Loop, step 1.8 terra is complete. We are pausing at 1.9.
SpaceX copies on the Big Loop. And that's good timing. Ground has verified system reconfigurations for hatch closure are complete and nominal. You are go to proceed to Section 2. Report when ready to pressurize.
Copy, go for Section 2 and Volco.
And the Corps, the Crew Operations Resource Engineer in Hawthorne, California, giving the crew the go-ahead to begin suit pressurization for leak checks on their launch and entry suits. This part of the routine series of procedures that will lead to the new undocking time that is marked at physical separation, the new undocking time of 4:20 p.m. Central Time, 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time.
SpaceX Dragon, step 2.2, ready to pressurize.
SpaceX copies. You are go for 2.3. Initiate suit leak check.
Copy, go for 2.3.
And the report is the suits are being pressurized for the 4 crew members aboard Endeavour. Again, part of the routine leak check activities that will ensure that those suits are airtight and ready to support the undocking of Endeavour from the International Space Station. We're about 90 minutes away from the undocking command that will begin the process of retracting the umbilical that has provided power to Dragon during its docked stay aboard the International Space Station. That will be followed by the opening of 2 sets of hooks, 12 hooks in all, that will break the physical separation between Dragon and the zenith or space-facing port of the International Space Station, allowing the beginning of several burns of the Draco thrusters to create an opening rate for Dragon as it drifts away from the international outpost. The deorbit burn that will begin Endeavour's trip home out of low Earth orbit is scheduled at 1:51 a.m. Central Time, 2:51 a.m. Eastern Time, Thursday morning. That will be a 13-minute, 15-second braking maneuver to slow Endeavour down by 87.5 meters per second, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its high-speed entry back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Houston, station on 2, we're complete in step 4 of 2.103, moving on to step 5.
Copy all, we're with you in step 5.
SpaceX Dragon, step 2.5, nominal suit leak check.
SpaceX copies on the Big Loop. We concur 4 nominal leak checks. Dragon, SpaceX, This is a comm check on Dragon to ground. I do see that Mike has his push-to-talk set to ground, if he can respond.
SpaceX, Dragon, C3 speaking. Howdy. Clear.
All right, howdy C3, loud and clear as well. Good Dragon to ground comm check.
This is Mission Control Houston. With the successful completion of the leak checks on the 4 crew members for Crew 11 aboard the Dragon Endeavour, 4 good suits reported and confirmed by the SpaceX engineers at their mission control room in Hawthorne, California. So just a quick recap, the crew loaded all of the cargo aboard Endeavour that will be brought back to Earth for a splashdown in the wee hours Thursday morning off the coast of California. They closed the hatch between the station and Dragon at 2:29 p.m. Central Time, 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time. All of this pointing towards the undocking of Dragon from the space-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station. The updated undocking time is now scheduled at 4:20 p.m. Central, 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time, leading to a splashdown early Thursday morning off the coast of California at 2:41 a.m. Central, 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time. There's a view of the Dragon Endeavour with the 4 crew members in good shape, all suited up, ready to begin the journey home to wrap up 167 days in space. We will be back within the hour for the undocking coverage, in which we'll be joined by Hawthorne, California, and SpaceX. For all of that activity, be sure to tune us back in at 3:45 p.m. Central, 4:45 p.m. Eastern Time for undocking of Endeavour from the International Space Station to begin the journey back to Earth. For now, we'll wrap up our hatch closure coverage. This is Mission Control Houston. international outpost. Since then, that crew member has been stable with no issues reported. That crew member forcing NASA to decide rather rapidly the following day that it was going to return Crew 11 to Earth a few weeks ahead of schedule with the intent in mind to properly monitor the crew member's health in returning to space and once back on Earth. Again, joining us today from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, to talk about all the specifics about the final preparations leading up to undocking is Ronnie Foreman. Ronnie, great to have you with us today.
Thanks very much, Rob. Crew 11th is the 11th crew rotation mission for Dragon and its 12th flight with NASA's Commercial Crew Program. As you mentioned, Crew 11 launched last year aboard a Falcon 9 rocket on August 1st, 2025, and docked with the station the next day. Right now, the crew is currently suited, and the Dragon and station hatches are both sealed in preparation for Dragon's departure. Once Dragon undocks, the crew's flight home is expected to last about 10.5 hours. We're seeing live views of the crew inside the spacecraft on your screen there. Shortly after separation, Dragon will use its Draco thrusters to move away from the station in a series of carefully choreographed maneuvers, or departure burns, to increase the distance between the spacecraft and the space station. Dragon will also execute a phasing burn to lower its orbit and line the spacecraft up with its landing location. Following phasing, Dragon will complete deorbit, re-entry, and splashdown. During the deorbit sequence, several events will occur, including trunk separation, closure of the nose cone, a deorbit burn, deployment of the drogue and main parachutes, and finally splashdown. Of course, the Crew 11 astronauts will be able to follow all of that on the screens inside the spacecraft that you see there right now. Dragon is targeted to splash down off the coast of San Diego, California on Thursday, January 15th at approximately 12:41 a.m. Pacific, which is 2:41 a.m. Central, where it will be picked up by a SpaceX recovery vessel, and our recovery teams will help egress or exit the crew from the spacecraft.
The four crew members on board the Dragon Endeavour, who are just minutes away from departing the International Space Station, Zena Cardman, Mike Fink, Kimi Ayui, and Oleg Platonov, they will have completed 167 days in space, 165 days on board the International Space Station. They will have completed 2,672 orbits of the Earth, a journey of 70.8 million statute miles. Cardman and Platonov wrapping up their first flights, respectively, away from the planet and logged 167 days in space. Mike Fink is wrapping up his fourth flight into space, a total of 549 days in all. That puts him fourth on the all-time list amongst NASA astronauts, 20th on the all-time list for most aggregate days in space. Kimi Ayui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency is coming home after his second flight away from the planet and a total of 309 days in space.
Also on board the space station is NASA astronaut Chris Williams, as well as cosmonauts Sergei Kutsverkov and Sergei Mikhaev. Now, just like the approach to the International Space Station, Dragon's departure and deorbit are designed to be fully autonomous, requiring no action from the crew on board. NASA astronaut Chris Williams helped our crew members prepare for departure today and will be watching from the cupola, but the prime departure monitoring role falls on Zena Cardman from inside Dragon. Mission control in both Houston and Hawthorne will back up our crew as we step them through undocking today. The station crew have been busy preparing to send our astronauts home. Rob Navius has more on what we can expect until Dragon departs from station. Rob?
The road toward the undocking of the International Space Station just a few minutes from now began actually with the decision by NASA last week to bring the Crew 11 crew home just a few weeks ahead of schedule, originally targeted for a homecoming about the third week in February. They had that time frame accelerated in a decision that was reached by NASA, the international partners, and SpaceX, who all of whom have worked diligently to accelerate the time frame for this return back to Earth. Back on Monday, Mike Fink, the commander of the space station, participated along with the rest of his crewmates on the station in a change of command ceremony in which he handed over command of the station to Sergei Kud-Sverchkov, the Roscosmos cosmonaut. This would have occurred regardless of when Crew 11 was ready to depart, but the change of command was conducted on Monday morning. Earlier today, as the crew began final preparations prior to undocking, the crew reported that it was feeling very well, in good shape, ready to begin the journey back to Earth that will start with the undocking command that is scheduled about 7 minutes from now. That command will trigger the retraction of an umbilical that has provided power to Dragon while docked to the zenith or space-facing port of the International Space Station. That will be followed by the opening of 2 sets of hooks. Those hooks, 6 hooks per set, they will open up to break the physical connection between the station and Dragon Endeavour. There will be a series of burns of the Draco thrusters to begin an opening rate by Dragon away from the station outside of what is called the approach ellipsoid, which is essentially the imaginary cylindrical boundary of the neighborhood of the International Space Station, at which point the joint operations between Mission Control here in Houston and the SpaceX Flight Control Team in Hawthorne will come to an end, and Hawthorne will take over exclusive control of the rest of Endeavour's flight back to Earth, which, as you heard Ronnie say earlier, will culminate in a splashdown early Thursday morning off the coast of San Diego at 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time, 2:41 a.m. Central Time. Ronnie, you have more details about what will be involved as we approach the time of the undocking command.
Thanks, Rob. So right now we are standing by for that next call from Mission Control, and we'll keep ourselves plugged in so that you can hear, as well as we can, the next updates from our team. Right now, separation is set for approximately 2:20 p.m. Pacific, 5:20 p.m. Eastern, which is just about 11 minutes from now. As we mentioned earlier, just like its approach to the space station, this departure for Dragon and the subsequent deorbit are designed to be fully autonomous, requiring no action from our crew. Departure is typically faster and easier, since the crew won't have to stop at any waypoints we see, like when the spacecraft arrives. We take particular care, as Rob noted, when we enter the approach ellipsoid and then when we depart again. Once the undocking sequence is complete, Dragon will use its Draco thrusters to move away from the station in a series of 4 departure burns, which are carefully choreographed spacecraft maneuvers that increase the distance between the spacecraft and the space station. From there, a phasing burn will place Dragon on a trajectory to align it with that splashdown site. As we've had a couple of views here on our screen previously, our crew is inside Dragon right now. They are suited up as we are entering a dynamic phase of flight. We may hear a call out for the crew to also pull their visors down ahead of that actual undocking event itself. So right now we are standing by for that go, no-go call to undock, and then we'll be waiting for the undocking sequence to begin. Once we get that call, it will take less than 5 minutes for Dragon to separate from the International Space Station, which has been its home for the last 6 months. At the planned undock time, SpaceX Mission Control will command the undock sequence start, which begins the automatic undocking process. The first step is for the umbilicals to retract. These umbilicals are electrical connections that connect Dragon systems to the space station, transferring power, telemetry, and commands between the 2 vehicles during Dragon's stay. Once that's complete, Dragon will unlatch itself, just like Rob described, releasing 12 hard capture hooks in 2 separate phases. All that combined will take just about 4.5 minutes, and then Dragon will be ready to depart from station and begin to move itself further and further away using those Draco thrusters. Dragon's initial departure from station, like I mentioned before, is a little bit different, and it's also different from other docked vehicles like the Soyuz that rely on springs to push them away from the docking port. Dragon will execute 2 short thruster firings to undock using a combination of 12 Draco thrusters around the base of the spacecraft, with the first burn breaking any stiction between Dragon and the docking port, and the second slowly backing the spacecraft away. We are expecting the call for the end sequence to begin in the next few minutes or so. As we continue to wait for that confirmation call for undocking, the view on your screen right now is at Mission Control Houston. Mission Control in Houston and our facility here in Hawthorne are connected to the International Space Station and the Crew 11 astronauts right now on a communications network known as the Big Loop. When we hear that call come through, you'll very likely hear whoever is speaking announce which loop they're speaking on so that we can follow along with the astronauts and understand who's in the loop. On the right-hand side of your screen now, you've got that view of Mission Control Hawthorne as well. So as Rob mentioned earlier, following deorbit and splashdown, Xena, Mike, Kimya, and Oleg will have spent 167 days in space, orbiting the Earth more than 2,600 times. Crew 11 saw the arrival of 5 visiting vehicles since their arrival in August, including SpaceX's CRS-33 resupply mission, Progress 93, Northrop Grumman's 23rd resupply mission, JAXA's HTV-X1, and Soyuz MS-28. They also saw the departure of 3 visiting vehicles, including NASA's SpaceX Crew 10, Progress 92, and Soyuz MS-27. Mike Fink will have spent 549 days in space, the 4th most cumulative spaceflight time by a U.S. astronaut and 20th on the all-time list, as Rob noted earlier. Kimya Yui
on the Big Loop, undock sequence commanded.
So there we heard the call out from Mission Control that we are go for undock and the receipt of that command from Dragon. With Dragon now getting ready to undock, Rob will take us through that process. Rob?
Okay, Ronnie, thanks very much. The International Space Station is currently flying just off the southwest coast of Australia at an altitude of 260 statute miles. As you've indicated, the undocking command has been issued.
On the Big Loop, umbilical demate complete and nominal. Umbilical demate complete and nominal.
The hooks are beginning to drive. Again, 2 sets of hooks, 12 hooks in all. Once they're open, then Dragon will be free to begin its journey away from the Earth, from the space-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station. There will be a series of burns. There will be 2 so-called undocking burns. The first will be 1.5 seconds in duration, the second 5 seconds in duration, followed by 2 so-called departure burns, one of 16 seconds in duration, the second of 22 seconds in duration. That will accelerate Dragon's rate of separation from the international outpost to a point in which it will exit the so-called keep-out sphere, and then ultimately the approach ellipsoid to begin the rest of its journey. Even though the undocking is coming about 15 minutes behind schedule, based on the work that was required to prepare the crew for undocking, this will not affect the rest of the timeline. There will be some burn adjustments made by the SpaceX engineers in Hawthorne, but it will all lead to a splashdown off the coast of San Diego for the 4 Crew 11 crew members at 2:41 a.m. Central Time, 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time to wrap up this 167-day mission. This view of Endeavour at the zenith or space-facing port of the Harmony module What Ronnie mentioned, the CRS-33 cargo craft, that is docked to the forward port of the Harmony module and will remain in place until after the next crew, the Crew 12 crew, arrives at the station in a few weeks.
First set of hooks open, nominal. First set of hooks open, nominal.
The second set of hooks now beginning to open. We are committed to an undocking, standing by for those hooks to fully retract. The departure of Endeavour will leave Sergei Kud-Sverchkov, NASA's Chris Williams, and Roscosmos' Sergei Mikheyev as a three-man crew for the next few weeks until Crew 12 arrives. The interface between Dragon and the station has no longer been sealed. Standing by for physical separation. About 20 seconds away from physical separation.
Dragon SpaceX, all hooks open, nominal. SpaceX, all hooks open, nominal.
Dragon copies.
Undocking confirmed. Endeavour begins its journey home with the Crew 11 crew. Undocking
Dragon
confirmed.
SpaceX, separation confirmed. Dragon SpaceX, separation confirmed.
Dragon copies, stay the same. Dragon copies, stay the same.
A good undocking burn, 4:20 p.m. Central Time, 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time for undocking, as Dragon and the International Space Station flew 260 statute miles south of Australia.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Depart, burn 0 complete.
So we've had 3 good departure burns. The undocking burns 1 and 2, departure burn 0. So despite the accelerated nature of the timing of this undocking for Crew 11, the crew has executed everything by the book as they begin about a 10.5-hour journey to a splashdown off the coast of San Diego in the wee hours Thursday morning.
Houston Station on 2, ISS thrusters are enabled.
Houston copies.
That the voice of Chris Williams of NASA on board the station as we look inside Dragon over the shoulders of Zena Cardman and Mike Fink. We expect Dragon to exit the approach ellipsoid and for joint operations to conclude between Houston and Hawthorne in the neighborhood of about 4:40 p.m. Central, 5:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming up is Endeavour's departure and exit from the keep-out sphere, the first of these two boundaries that are used to essentially measure the neighborhood of the International Space Station during rendezvous and departure operations. Once again, the view over the shoulders of Zena Cardman and Mike Fink, Endeavour's commander and pilot, the two NASA astronauts, amongst the four 11 crew members heading home for a splashdown early Thursday morning off the coast of San Diego. We're coming up on Depart Burn 1 and then the exit out of the keep-out sphere as you look at the flight control team at SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California.
As Rob mentioned, we are now standing by for that departure burn 1. And at this point, because Dragon has disconnected from the International Space Station, it's relying entirely on its own power sources, from batteries and generated through solar cells, instead of taking power and telemetry from the space station. You can follow along with the telemetry that we're tracking in Mission Control at the bottom of your screen. When we step into this departure burn, you'll see the initial distance between Dragon and the space station increase further. You also may see the rate come back up. The thrusters on board the Dragon spacecraft are located in the service section, and this burn will last about 22 seconds. In that lower graphic right now, you can see that we're activating some of those micro adjustments as we follow along. Even though all of this is taking place very methodically and very slowly, both of these vehicles are traveling about 17,000 miles an hour. So this is a very carefully...
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Depart burn 1 complete and nominal. This time, you are go to DOF suits per procedure 4.012. Reminder that ground will be deactivating the big loop following exit from the approach ellipsoid.
We are go for 4.012 suit docking with a nominal depart burn, and we will be reconfiguring the big loop once we get out of the ellipsoid.
So we got confirmation there from Mission Control and a read back from Dragon that they have exited this dynamic phase of flight and can now take off their spacesuits. As I was mentioning, this is a pretty carefully choreographed set of maneuvers, but now that we're through departure burn 1, we know that we've exited the keep-out sphere, which is a 200-meter radius invisible line around the International Space Station. Before moving into the keep-out sphere, spacecraft have to be configured where they would not cross that imaginary boundary for at least 4 orbits, even if the spacecraft lost all maneuvering capability. This safety zone is set up to govern any visiting spacecraft, Dragon or any of the others we mentioned earlier in the webcast, when they're arriving or departing from the space station. Some beautiful views of the Earth from up in space there on your screen right now, too. And now that we are focused primarily on Dragon, as Rob mentioned, because the vehicles have now separated, you're following along with the speed and altitude of Dragon in the lower left-hand corner of your screen.
Dragon end station, this is Houston on the Big Loop. Dragon has exited the keep out sphere. Endeavour crew, enjoy the ride home.
Endeavour crew copies on the Big Loop. Thank you.
So there we heard confirmation from both teams again that we have exited that keep out sphere. And now we're waiting for Dragon to exit the approach ellipsoid, or AE for short, which is another imaginary shape. This time a three-dimensional ellipsoid, kind of a football shape, measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers in the same family as that keep out sphere. One of the key differences with the AE, though, is that vehicles outside of it have to be on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory. Instead of the 4 orbits we mentioned earlier, that means that a spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours again, even if it lost all maneuvering for that call-out, once we hear confirmation that Dragon is outside of the AE. So to recap what brought us to today, the hatches between the International Space Station and Dragon were closed earlier today at approximately
Crew Dragon, cabin mic, com check, how do you read?
With our crew settled.
SpaceX has you loud and clear from the cabin mic.
We also loud and clear, thank you.
We just had good confirmations there that our Crew 11 team can hear mission control here in Hawthorne loud and clear. And our crew is beginning to settle in for that 10.5-hour journey back to Earth. So I'm going to toss it back to Rob over at NASA. Rob?
Thanks, Ronnie. The 2 spacecraft, Endeavour and the International Space Station, are currently flying just to the southeast of New Zealand, moving from southwest to northeast in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. The range between Endeavour and the station will continue to open up to a safe distance that will lead in the wee hours Thursday at 1:51 a.m. Central Time, 2:51 a.m. Eastern Time, to a deorbit burn that will be a 13-minute, 15-second retrograde braking maneuver for Endeavour to slow the vehicle down by 87.5 meters per second. Just as is the case for any returning vehicle from low Earth orbit velocity, this will enable Endeavour to enter back into the Earth's atmosphere for all of the key activities that will be associated with its 50-minute return trip through the atmosphere, through the area of peak heating, a brief period of a loss of signal while plasma builds up around the Dragon itself, and then a reacquisition of signal prior to the deployment of drogue chutes and the main chutes that will enable Dragon to gently splash down off the coast of San Diego at 2:41 a.m. Central Time, 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time, early Thursday morning, wrapping up a 167-day mission. Once again, Crew 11 is on its way home a few weeks earlier than originally had been anticipated, but the crew is in good shape, ready for its arrival in the Pacific Ocean for a splashdown in the early morning hours on Thursday. where the SpaceX recovery team will quickly move into action to hoist the Dragon onto the well deck of the recovery ship and extract the crew, with their mission now having been completed. Everything has gone by the book. Endeavour in good shape. The International Space Station now crewed by 3 people: Chris Williams of NASA, Sergei Sverchkov, and Sergei Mikheyev of Roscosmos. They will be a 3-man crew for the next few weeks until the arrival of the Crew 12 crew on the next SpaceX Crew Dragon that will be launched from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. With that, we'll wrap it up from Mission Control here in Houston and go back to Ronnie Foreman at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne.
Thanks so much, Rob. With that, Crew 11 has officially departed the International Space Station. As we continue to move a safe distance from the station, we are preparing for that deorbit burn that Rob mentioned. Again, Dragon is targeted to splash down off the coast of San Diego at approximately 12:41 a.m. Pacific time, followed by the crew getting picked up at sea by a SpaceX recovery vessel. As they rest up, our teams here will continue to keep an eye on the weather to ensure a safe return for our Dragon and Crew 11 astronauts. In case you are just joining us, we are following along as our Crew 11 astronauts depart the International Space Station. And right now we're standing by for Dragon to exit the approach ellipsoid, or AE, which is an imaginary football shape that is about 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers in the same family as the Keep-Out Sphere, and basically governs the neighborhood of the International Space Station. One of the key differences between the approach ellipsoid that you see on the outside on the graphic in your screen and the Keep-Out Sphere, which is that smaller inner circle, is that vehicles inside of the AE right now, or where we are right now, are on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory. That means that the spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours again, even if it lost all maneuvering. So we are standing by for that call out to hear that we have exited the AE and that our Crew 11 astronauts continue on their way home. Now, to recap, earlier today, the hatches between the International Space Station and Dragon were closed. Since then, the crew has settled in to begin their 10.5-hour journey back to Earth. The joint NASA and SpaceX teams pulled go to proceed with undocking, and the undock command was then sent, followed by umbilical retraction and hook opening, with physical separation taking place right on schedule at 2:20 p.m. Pacific, as the space station and Dragon were traveling about 260 statute miles south of Australia. Dragon then completed 2 of 4 departure burns and exited the Keep-Out Sphere. We are again now standing by from Dragon crossing the approach ellipsoid to set the spacecraft and Crew 11 up for their path back to Earth. On splashdown tomorrow, we'll be marking the completion of a long-duration science and research mission for these 4 astronauts and the astronauts that were part of the broader expedition who are still on board the International Space Station. So because Dragon is still inside the approach ellipsoid, we are still currently in joint operations. And you're watching Mission Control Houston and Mission Control Hawthorne working together in the 2 different blocks on your screen. We mentioned this earlier in the webcast too, but you can follow along with Dragon's telemetry in the bottom of your screen. We just had that range measurement come up that you can track, looking at just about 800 meters away from the International Space Station right now. We're also tracking right now that about 1,000 meters or 1 kilometer is going to be the right boundary of that approach ellipsoid. So right now we're watching the number increase, which is exactly what we want to see as our Crew 11 astronauts depart the space station. Again, we are standing by right now for that departure from the approach ellipsoid. You can keep following that, as I mentioned, in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. That is the distance between Dragon and the International Space Station. And we think we'll hit that 1,000-meter, 1 kilometer mark here in just about another minute. If you were with us earlier in the broadcast, you know that we had great views of Dragon as it left the International Space Station. But now that we've moved away from it and we are on the darker side of the Earth, our views have gone offline for now. Obviously, we're still in touch with our astronauts, and we'll bring those images back to you either later in this broadcast or when we pick it up later this evening to follow splashdown and recovery of our Crew 11 astronauts. Coming up on about 970 meters away from the International Space Station. So we should hear that call out any second that we have exited the approach ellipsoid. Tracking 1 kilometer on your screen right there. So right now we're just waiting for that call out over the big loop between Mission Control Houston on the left and Mission Control Hawthorne on the right.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Dragon has exited the approach ellipsoid and is on a safe free drift trajectory. Houston will be taking down the big loop shortly. Expect ISS audio traffic to cease. Following final comms, request swap of audio destination to Dragon to ground. Post swap, contact ground on Dragon to ground via the cabin mic for a comm check.
Dragon copies. In work.
So that announcement we just heard from Mission Control Hawthorne officially marks departure from the approach ellipsoid and the end of joint operations. That's why you heard our team explaining how communications protocols would change from here through the end of the mission. Crew 11 has officially departed the International Space Station, and now we'll expect them back here on Earth about 10.5 hours from now, again splashing down off the coast of San Diego. The crew is currently doffing or removing their spacesuits to settle in for that ride home. Splashdown should be early tomorrow morning at 12:41 a.m. Pacific Time, 2:41 a.m. Central, followed by the crew getting picked up at sea by a SpaceX recovery vessel. As they rest up, our teams here will continue to keep an eye on the weather to ensure safe return for Dragon and our Crew 11 astronauts. Meanwhile, we'll rejoin you for live visual coverage starting roughly 1 hour prior to splashdown, so we'll be back at about 11:40 p.m. Pacific. As always, you can find mission updates on X at NASA, at SpaceX, and on the web at nasa.gov. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you on our Crew 11 astronauts again soon.